kids, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing good. My name is Lizzie. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're comfy. Are you ready for another story? Tonight we are reading about past and present ships. I love ships. This got pirate ships in there. It got Christopher Columbus's ships in there. Everything we need to know about ships is in this book. So if you love ships and you want to learn about it, get ready. Get a blankie, get a snack, get a drink. Hit the pause button if you need to. Now would be a good time. If not, we'll get into it shortly. I just want to show you some of the other books that we're going to be doing next. We're going to learn about the Underground Railroad, which is where I live. It's prominent in my area. We're going to learn about prehistoric people. We're going to learn how we think. Where do thoughts come from? And then we're going to learn about elephants between now and next week. So, get ready, kids, because we have a lot of good books coming, so stay tuned. But tonight, we are learning about ships. I'm so excited I got to go back to the library. Now I will have an endless supply of books to teach you about. So, stay tuned if you saw any of those books that you like. And get ready to learn all we need to know about all the ships, past, present, and future. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? We're learning about past and present ships. And since the pages are so big, I'm going to read it and then we'll talk about the pictures before I go on to the next page, okay? Ready, set, let's go. Ships are the oldest form of long-distance transport. They have carried people and goods for at least 5,000 years. It's a long time. Large ships sail the world's oceans, while smaller boats make shorter voyages on lakes and rivers. Sailing ships. Early boats and ships were made of reeds and then planks of wood. They were rowed with oars. Then sails were used to help move them. Sailing ships grew in size until they reached their biggest in the mid-1800s. Chinese junks are still used as working ships and to carry tourists. That's that ship right there. Isn't that crazy looking? Oh, they built that. Fun and games on the deck of the 1920s ocean liner. So, to cross the ocean, you had to stay on the ship for a while. So they would play and do fun things as they voyaged. And then some modern ports are specifically designed for high-speed ferries. That's a modern one. Ferry, like if you want to go to the Statue of Liberty, take a ferry like that across the water. Trading by sea. In ancient times, ships were used to explore new lands and to trade with other people. Ships were also important in wartime. They carried fighting men and weapons to enemy shores. Ancient sailors. The ancient Egyptians made boats from bundles of reeds. Then about 5,000 years ago, they discovered that boats could be moved along by sails that caught the wind. Later, they made ships from wood. The Phoenicians from the eastern Mediterranean coast built fast fighting ships. The ancient Greeks used a similar design, and by 300 BC, their biggest ships had 4 sails. Merchant ships. The Romans built up the largest sailing fleet of ancient times, and their merchant ships were over 165 feet long. At that time, there were no real passenger ships. Travelers had to sail on merchant ships, and they often shared small cabins with slaves and prisoners. This Roman merchant ship sailed in AD 200. Ships like this carried a whole range of cargo. So that's the picture. Way back in the day. That's what you would ride on. You see it? Pretty cool, right? What are they doing on there? See that big hole? Don't you want to just go down there and see what's in it? I do. This wooden boat was built in a pit beside the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It may have been used to carry a pharaoh's body across the Nile. What's this picture right here? Whoa. That's what they would light on fire in funerals. This picture was found on the wall of an Egyptian tomb. It shows the mayor of, I never say this right, Thebes, I think it's Thebes, and his wife sailing on the Nile around 1450 BC. That was once the capital of Egypt. See this picture? That was painted. So they had ships even on old hieroglyphics. About 3,000 years ago, the Phoenicians sailed all over the Mediterranean and beyond to trade with other countries. So they were at Spain and Italy and Greece. There's the Mediterranean Sea, Egypt, even North Africa. So all these routes, they would sail their ships to trade. Ships were very important. They did a lot. A Greek warship. By 500 BC, the Greeks had warships called triremes. Triremes. I don't know these Greek words. These were used to ram enemy ships and sink them. The rowers were placed so that the oars did not crash. Oh my God! So they'd run these boats into other boats. It looks like a centipede, doesn't it, with all the oars? They would run into other boats with that. They were crazy. This man is rowing his reed boat on Lake Titicaca in the Andes Mountains between Peru and Bolivia in South America. In South America, not the South America. The boat is made from reeds that grow by the shores of the lake. Hey, that's pretty cool. Look, he made that all by himself. I wish I could do that. Don't you wish you could build a boat? Crossing oceans. Nobody knows exactly when people first sailed across the world's two biggest oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic. But it is certain that they traveled in all sorts of ships, from simple rafts to long, fast ships. A Viking longship had a sail made of tough woolen cloth and straps of leather, like that. Canoes and rafts. The original Polynesian inlanders of the South Pacific probably sailed there from Southeast Asia between 1,000 and 3,000 years ago. Wow. They traveled in large canoes using sails and paddles. Others may have sailed on balsa wood rafts. Viking voyages. Ooh, here comes the Vikings. The Vikings used their long ships to raid other people's lands. The ships had up to 30 oars on each side, but on the open sea, a sail was used. Okay. After the year AD 1000, a Viking called Leif Erikson sailed to present-day Canada and northeast U.S. This great voyage took place nearly 500 years before Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic. So the Vikings actually discovered America. Look at that Viking ship. Isn't that cool? I like this part. It's like a dragon. See it? Vikings were no joke. They were scary. A long ship was steered with an oar at the stern. Rowers' oars also helped with steering. See that little rudder in the water? That would help steer it, and the oars. In 1947, Thor Heyerdahl, we're just going to say Thor, sailed from South America and Polynesia on a balsa wood raft, as others might have long ago. This is how other people travel. Very flat boat. Do you see it? Very minimal. This is a modern replica of an old longship that was found buried in Norway. The Vikings sometimes buried famous warriors with their ships. So that's a man-made of today to look like the Viking ships. This ship is called a dhow. It was originally an Arab ship. Dhows were sailed for many centuries in the Persian Gulf and Red Sea. The sail runs along the length of the ship rather than across it. Oh, see that? Pretty cool. It looks like a sailboat. The people of the Solomon Islands and the Pacific Ocean used to go to sea in huge wooden canoes. Today, the canoes are mostly used for special ceremonies. Clinker-built-in ships have planks that overlap each other. Carvel-built ships, Carvel like the ice cream, ships have planks next to each other. Okay, so this is the wooden canoes by the Solomon people. Up there, you see it? That, like a big dragon. And then down here, they're showing you that clinker-built ships have planks that overlap. So this would overlap the other one, so they're stronger. Very cool. Sailing to America. By about 1250, shipbuilders in Europe were making strong trading ships. They had a wide hull and a new method of steering using a rudder. The Mayflower was 90 foot long. It had 3 masts and a bowsprit at the prow. These gave a total of 6 sails. So that's what the Pilgrims came on. John Smith. Pretty cool, huh? More sails. Shipbuilders went on adding more sails to their ships to make them faster. By 1450, a full-rigged ship had 3 masts, including a main mast in the middle. The explorers Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand, like the teddy bear? Ferdinand. Sorry. Magellan and full-rigged ships. Oh, sorry. Magellan had full-rigged ships. Magdalene. Oh my God. I was reading a cartoon book and her name was Magdalene and it came right in my head. Wow. From Plymouth to Plymouth. The full rugged Mayflower set sail from Plymouth, England in 1620. On board were 102 men, women, and children. Among them were the Pilgrims' fathers, who were looking for a new life and freedom to worship God in their own way. When the Pilgrims landed in what is now Massachusetts, they named their new settlement Plymouth. Plymouth Rock, to be specific. But yeah, that's what they came from England on, and then they would get in their canoes to go to the mainland once they arrived in America. Inside the Mayflower, level 1, forecastle, where the crew slept and ate. So it's right here in this tiny little box. Do you see it? See where my finger is? Oh my goodness. 2, windlass, a machine for raising the anchor. It's right here, this little thing. Can you see this? Probably not. Hold the main cargo area. So all of this. Level 3, this is all cargo. What else we got? 4, capstan, a pulley system to pull up cargo. Right there. Little dinky little thing. Number 5, cabin for the ship's officers. So they got better housing up there. Wind staff, a lever that moved the rudder. Oh my goodness, you probably can't see that at all. It's so super tiny. I'm just going to read them because they're so little. Do this when you're my age to see it. Then there was a chart room where maps were studied, a captain's cabin, passenger quarters, a gun room with 2 cannons. A replica of the Santa Maria. This was one of the 3 ships which took Columbus to the New World in 1492. See that? That's a mock-up of the Santa Maria. This 13th century trading ship was called a cog. C-O-G. The large stern castle at the back sheltered the passengers and crew. So this is an old ship. Very teeny. They just got bigger over time, huh? In 1620, the Mayflower had a very stormy voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. It lasted over 9 weeks. Columbus left Palos in 1492 with 3 ships. 10 weeks later, he sighted San Salvador. The Santa Maria was wrecked near Hispaniola. In Spanish, I failed that class so bad. Hispaniola. There we go. Hispaniola. So only 2 ships returned to Spain in 1493. Oh my goodness. The Clipper Flying Cloud was built in 1851. Clippers got their name because their slow speed allowed them to clip days off at normal sailing times. So those ships with all those, that's the Clipper. And this is Christopher Columbus's route. And this is where the Santa Maria crashed. Took them 10 weeks to get to America. Full steam ahead. For thousands of years, ships were powered by the wind or by human energy, or rowing. The invention of the steam engine in the late 18th century changed all that. But the first steamships still had sails in case the engine broke down. The Great Eastern, launched in 1958, had a propeller, paddle wheels, and sails. Ooh, look at that big puppy. Now it's running by steam, and they still had sails just in case they couldn't go by steam. See, this one still has a sailboat, but look at how much bigger they are. Early steamships. The first successful steamship was built in America in 1807. 12 years later, the American-built Savannah. That's how they called it. Savannah became the first steamship to cross the Atlantic to Europe. By 1835, paddle steamers were making regular crossings. Brunel's big ships. The British engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel launched his steamship Great Britain in 1843. Then came Great Eastern, which was 700 feet long and could carry 4,000 passengers. This was easily the longest ship built up to that time. It was later used to lay a telegraph cable across the Atlantic so that they could get messages from one end of the country by Morse code and radio. How exciting! This is a modern example of a Mississippi River steamer. This type of ship is driven by one large paddle wheel. See that? It's pretty cool. It just goes round and round and round. I love the sound of it too. The Suez Canal opened in 1869. It links the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. Ooh. It mixes the 2 seas. Oh my goodness. It's like a blender. The design of the ship's propellers has changed over the years. An early screw propeller, that's this one, just this very simple little screw. And the next one is the bladed propeller. And then Great Britain's propeller on the bottom that made them really fast. Kind of looked like that, but they didn't need the wood thing anymore. The Savannah arrives at Liverpool, England in 1819 after crossing the Atlantic Ocean in 29 days. Woo! 29 days back then was super fast. Okay, so they're showing you up here. We got the propeller, which is here. The shaft that keeps it all together. The pistons inside the cylinders. That's this wheel thing. Can you see it? And then the broiler where they made all the steam that went up and made the steam go forward. The Blue Riband, the great ocean liners of the 20th century, were among the most famous and best-loved ships of all time. The fastest liners competed for a very special trophy. Ooh, they're racing now. The Queen Mary was 1,050 feet long, half as long again as the Great Eastern. It first crossed the Atlantic in 1936. Transatlantic Trophy. The award for the fastest Atlantic crossing was called the Blue Riband. The Queen Mary crossed the Atlantic a couple of times before it came up to full speed. Then it won the award by steaming from New York to Southampton in under 4 days. Woo! In 1952, the American liner United States set a new record for 3.5 days. Woo! That's pretty fast. That's Queen Mary. Dun, dun, dun. There goes the Queen Mary, the fastest ship of her time. Traveling in luxury. Passengers traveled in luxury on these huge ocean liners. They were like floating hotels with ballrooms and swimming pools and sports courts. But during the 1950s and 1960s, the liners had to compete with jet aircraft. The planes were not so luxurious, but they were faster. Woo! So you could have a nice, it's like an early cruise ship. Tons to do on there. Never get bored. Oh my goodness. The Titanic sank on its first voyage in 1912. It struck an iceberg. I'm not doing good today, kids. In the North Atlantic, and 1,500 people died. That's 1,500 kids. The tragedy led to new safety regulations and more lifeboats. So that's the Titanic. Very famous ship. I did a book about that. Check out my list. You will find a Titanic story. The French liner Normandie competed for size, speed, and luxury with the British ships, Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. Ooh, so it competed, and it didn't say it won. The QE2, Queen Elizabeth II, I'm assuming, was launched in 1967. It has cruised all over the world. Look at how big that sucker is. One of the Queen Mary's luxury first-class cabins. Look at that. Looks like a little apartment. Oh, can you see it? Right there. Got a bed, pretty windows. The Queen Mary is now a luxury hotel and tourist attraction in Long Beach, California. The liner was taken out of service in 1967. So now it's basically just a sitting hotel. What's that? Let's take her out in the ocean. Oh. So they're showing you inside the ship. Ship is all entertainment areas. All the red. That's where all the entertainment was. Yellow is cargo. So all this yellow is where all the cargo was. Crew quarters is in brown. All the brown is where the crew slept and ate. Machinery. Woo, that's the most. Look at all that machinery. Passenger cabins is in pink. A lot of passenger cabins. Restaurants and kitchens is in blue. Ooh, that's where you go to get your food. Speeding into the future. Car and passenger ferries have been in use for many years. Ferries are now getting bigger and faster, and they try to compete with planes for passengers. The HSS High Speed Sea Service ferry carries 1,500 passengers and 375 cars. It is 415 feet long and 135 feet wide. Woo! So you can ride in there, you can drive your car onto it, and you can go across the water with your car. Pretty cool, right? High-speed ferries. Some new fast ferries have 2 hulls. They do not roll from side to side as much as other ships and are more comfortable for passengers. HSS ferries are powered by 4 jet engines. Movable nozzles turn the jets and steer the ship. All kinds of craft. Today, most big liners are used for vacation cruises. Liners and ferries are getting bigger and faster, but the world's biggest ships are oil tankers. Ships have been traveling the world's seas for thousands of years, and new ships and boats will go on doing so in the future. Hydrofoil. At high speeds, a hydrofoil lifts up onto wings called foils. This makes it skim across the water and go faster. This is like a water plane. Kind of even looks like a plane, doesn't it? This luxury private cruiser has its own helicopter on board. Such big ships are very expensive to run. Look at that big ship. Has a helicopter on it. Oh my goodness. Cars and trucks drive through the loading gates of the SS Ferry. So the loading gates, they put their cars down here and they stay up here. This modern clipper carries vacationers to the Indian Ocean and the Caribbean. A crew of 72 looks over 170 passengers. So you can sail on this boat today. Maybe after the pandemic. Sun Princess offers the latest in luxury cruising. It is 870 feet long and can carry nearly 2,000 passengers. My God, so it's a cruise ship. Hello. What's a big cruise ship you have? Pools on it and everything. Okay, so that's the end of it. But now let's learn all the words we learned. We got balsa wood. It is a very light type of wood that comes from tropical trees of Central and South America. What is a bowsprit? A pole that points forward from the front of the ship, which can carry a sail. What is cargo? Goods carried on a ship. So like everything you put on the ship to take with you, that's called cargo. Apart from people. What is a ferry? A ship that carries passengers and cars and goods. Like if you're going to the Statue of Liberty, you get on a ferry. It's like a water taxi. What is a fleet? A number of ships belonging to one nation. So like if the whole U.S. Navy were all riding their boats at the same time, that would be called a fleet. Full rigged, having 3 or more masts. So that's 3 or more sails. What's a hull? The main body of a ship where they put everything in there. Put it in the hull. Hydrofoil, a boat that can lift itself onto wings so that it skims across the water at high speed. The one that looks like a water plane. That's a hydrofoil. What's the junk? That's the Chinese sailing ship with square sails supported by bamboo rods. Very simple. It looks like a little teacup with a flag on it. What's a liner? A large ship that regularly carries passengers on a long voyage. So if you needed to go from one country to the next, you would get on a liner ship that carried people and everything. What's a long ship? A long, narrow Viking ship with oars and a square sail. The long ship is the one that they would ram the other ships with and put holes in it so it would sink. What's a merchant ship? It's a trading ship used for carrying goods to make money off of, pretty much. Like if you were taking some beer, which is what grown-ups buy a lot in ports. So if you were carrying beer across the street, across the ocean, and you got to the other side and you sold it, you would be a merchant ship. On a merchant ship. Paddle wheel. What's that? It's a large wheel with boards that pushes against the water to drive the ship along. So it's like the oars. That's what we call them today. What's a pharaoh? Do you remember what a pharaoh is? It's an ancient Egyptian ruler, or like a king. What's a propeller? A set of blades that turns in the water to push a ship along. It looks like the fan and goes really, really fast. What's a prow? The front end of a ship. So port and prow. Port is the end, prow is the front. Raft, a flat wooden boat, often made of logs tied together. So basically what you just build in the wilderness, when you see on TV and they're just trying to get across a short distance, they would build a raft. What's a replica? That means it's an exact copy. So they made replicas of ships that no longer exist. What's a steamship? Do you remember? It's a boat that runs on steam. It has the big thing that comes out, looks like a chimney on a boat. What's the stern? The back end of the ship. Okay, so prow and stern. I would fail sailing class. What's the stern castle? A raised structure at the back of a ship. Maybe so nobody falls off. All right, I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a lot about ships. Stay tuned. We're going to read a lot more stories, a lot more cool stuff to learn. So be good for your parents. Be good for your teachers. Be good to the elderly. Be good to your fellow students and kids. But also be good to yourself. Okay? You deserve it. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're good, kids. See you out next time. Be good, like I said. Santa's watching, even though it's like a year from now. He's still watching you. See you all later. Bye.